I want to introduce you to a concept I wish someone had told me about sooner: emotional debt. It's what happens when you keep making deposits into a life that looks great on paper while making withdrawals from your soul. Sure, my bank account was growing, my pension, my accolades, but my joy, my passion, my zest for life, those were deep in the red. For years, I followed the success formula I was given. Figure out what you're good at that makes money. Work hard, build a career, poof, happiness. But the happiness was fleeting. Every rung on the corporate ladder brought a moment of accomplishment, and then I'd have to rush to the next goal. I was constantly chasing that promise of happiness that stayed just out of reach. I built what I thought was success: finance, career, security, recognition. All the external markers said, Nick, you made it. But every day I was accruing emotional debt, the kind that compounds quietly, the kind you don't notice until one morning you wake up with an elephant on your chest and realize you're not sure if you want to be here anymore. And not suicidal, just disappointed. Like, is this really it? Is this what I worked so hard for? My body tried to tell me. I mean, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, burnout, but I didn't listen. I thought the problem was me, that I wasn't grateful enough, strong enough, committed enough. So I kept working, kept chasing, kept believing the lie that if I just pushed a little harder, happiness would finally show up. My reality check? It didn't, because I was chasing someone else's version of happiness instead of my own. And here's something nobody talks about. You can have all the strategy, all the right tactics, all the perfect plans, and still wake up every morning feeling like you're white knuckling your way through success. I know I did that for 15 years. And today, I'm going to tell you about the lie we've all been sold. The one that says you have to choose between money and meaning, between passion and prosperity, between success and your soul. I know you've heard it 1,000 times. Do what you love or make money, but you can't have both. That either or thinking, it's not just limiting, it's stealing your life force, one practical decision at a time. I'm Anik Manafant, and this is your Soul Led Business Podcast, where we stop pretending that success requires self-sacrifice. Let's dive in. Let me tell you about the morning the emotional debt I'd been accruing finally crushed me. I woke up with that elephant on my chest, heavier than usual. And I remember lying there, staring at the ceiling, thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. Not life, just this version of it that was slowly suffocating me. And that's when the question came. I heard myself say this out loud: there's got to be more to life than this. And here's the worst part. When I tried to share how I was feeling, people looked at me like I was ungrateful. Others have it worse. You have so much to be grateful for. Basically, suck it up. But I had been sucking it up every day for 15 years, through the fibromyalgia I lived with for 3 years, through the toxic relationship, one after the other, through the depression that I just couldn't shake, through the social drinking and smoking that I used to quiet that growing void within me. I'd been burying this feeling, tamping it down, doing everything that I could to tame this beast of dread within me. So I didn't tell anyone about that moment. Not right away. Because how do you explain to people that you're drowning in a life that looks great from the outside? But the coping mechanisms, they stopped working. And that question would not leave me alone. So finally, I found myself sitting across from a holistic counselor, unloading everything: the burnout, the depression, the substance abuse, the toxic relationship, the guilt about not being happy when I should be grateful, all of it. And she said something to me that honestly made me wonder if she was the one having a breakdown. She said, "Why don't you just change your life?" What? Changed my life just like that. Yeah, sure. I had years of education, training, special licenses, seniority. I had climbed this ladder rung by rung, and I had the calluses to prove it. Was she seriously suggesting I just set my life on fire? But here's the thing about questions that sound crazy in the moment: they shift your focus from what's broken to what's possible. So I let her words sit. I stopped defending. I stopped justifying. I just gave myself permission to be curious. And that's when the magic happened. That's when the clarity started roaring in. What if I didn't have to keep doing this? What if there was a different version of success? What if my definition of happiness didn't have to match the formula I'd been given? And that's when something shifted. Not in a lightning bolt, universe conspiring, everything changed overnight kind of way. More like I stopped gripping so tight. And when I loosened my grip, space started opening up. Within weeks, and I mean weeks, of asking that question, things started to shift. I was offered a new role, a special project as a transition specialist. Half the hours, more pay. Don't mind if I do. And here's where it gets interesting, because the universe has a sense of humor. While I was helping others transition in that role, I was being prepared for my own. And after that contract ended, they offered me the branch administrator role. Good position, great benefits, but I wasn't feeling it. So I gave them what I call a fuck off price. You know, that number so high you assume they'll walk away. They matched it. And you know what? Even that hefty paycheck wasn't enough to pull me away from this new direction that I was being called towards. So I did something unheard of in the finance world. I turned it down and I chose me. I decided to take a sabbatical, even though corporate culture treats that like something only academics deserve. I decided I deserved it too. Of course, the outside voices crept in. What will my potential employers think about a gap in my resume? But my inner whisper, at this point, it was strong enough to conquer that inner critic. This was my first leap of faith. For 8 months, I gave myself permission to do something radical. I stopped performing. I traveled to Germany. I meditated, journaled, spent time in nature, long stretches of quiet with just myself. I invested in therapy, holistic practitioners, coaches. I socialized. I had fun, something I'd almost forgotten how to do. And slowly, beneath all that noise I had been carrying, I found her. The version of me I'd lost along the way while trying to conform to the world's expectations. The one who'd been buried under the people pleasing and the constant craving for external validation. I reconnected with my true self. And that's when I stumbled into a whole new world: the world of energy, emotion, self discovery, personal development. I started training in various modalities and I discovered something I didn't know I had: a natural intuitive gift to connect to the inner and higher realms. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Trust me, the Wall Street version of me would have rolled her eyes so hard. But here's what I learned: the inner work isn't separate from outer success, it's the gateway to it. I dove deep into studying the subtle energies, the wisdom of intuition, quantum physics, how our consciousness literally impacts behavior of matter, the observer effect, all of it. And I felt this calling, not a whisper anymore, a roar. Every cell in my body was screaming, we need to do this, to share this discovery, to support others who felt as disconnected and lost as I once did, to support others in discovering what I had, that prosperity and purpose aren't opposites, they naturally coexist. So in 2012, I launched my first company as a holistic practitioner. And for the first time in my life, I experienced what success actually feels like when it's aligned. And that was 13 years ago. And here's the beautiful part: the inner work didn't just bring financial prosperity, though it absolutely did that too. It brought me a loving, supportive relationship with my soulmate partner, the blessing of our beautiful daughter, a lifestyle that honors our core values instead of compromising them, and the overwhelming joy that I get when I witness my clients discover their own path to holistic success, the kind that doesn't sacrifice one area of their life for another. Success without compromise. Now, I get to wake up excited every morning to work with incredible people. I get to fulfill my purpose by using my gifts, leaning into my zone of genius. I get to grow and learn as I continue doing this work. And I get to enjoy time and financial freedom while doing it. I get to do what I love and get paid well for it. The emotional debt I was accruing back then, I've not only paid it off, I'm living in surplus. So, why am I telling you all of this? Because here's what I know that I wish I'd known then. The lie we've all been sold, that you have to choose between prosperity and purpose, between money and meaning, between success and your soul. It's not just wrong, it's costing you everything that's worthwhile: your energy, your joy, your time, your relationships. Let's start with where this lie even came from. Because here's the thing: you didn't just wake up one day and decide to believe that success requires sacrifice. This lie was modeled for you, often unspoken, but there at every turn, by industries chasing short-term gains in exchange for long-term pains, prioritizing quarterly profits over sustainable innovation and true productivity, by a culture that glorifies busy and equates rest with laziness. And here's the really insidious part: the lie worked. That is, until it didn't. It got you promotions, recognition, financial security, all the things that you were told would make you happy. And when you still felt something was off, the lie told you it was your fault, that you weren't grateful enough, disciplined enough, committed enough. But what if the problem was never you? What if the formula itself was flawed? And here are the 3 shifts that changed everything for me, and that I've watched transform hundreds of clients who thought that they had to keep choosing between their soul and their success. So here's the first shift you need to anchor in. When something feels off, when you're exhausted, depleted, or wondering, is this it? That's not a character flaw. It's information. Now, you might not call it burnout. Most of my clients don't at first, neither did I. They just know something feels wrong. They're asking questions they've never asked before. They're craving more peace, more joy, more fulfillment, less compromise. And the data backs this up. 80% of employees are at risk of burnout in 2025. And more than 50% of women in leadership positions consistently feel burnt out. But here's what nobody tells you. Your exhaustion is not proof you're dedicated. It's proof you've drifted from alignment. Think of it like this. You know how your phone gives you that low battery warning? That's helpful information, right? It's not the phone failing, it's the phone telling you it needs to recharge. Your body works the same way. When you're aligned, when your work honors your value, when you're using your actual gifts, when you feel safe, you don't need to run on empty to succeed. You create from overflow, not depletion. So the question isn't, how do I push through this? The question becomes, what is this trying to get me to look at? Because your body is not your enemy. It's more wise than you give it credit. It's giving you information. And when you finally start listening, and that's when everything shifts, that's where the magic is. So here's the second shift you need to anchor in. Your values aren't a liability. They're actually your competitive advantage. I used to think that leading with integrity meant I'd have to work twice as hard for half the results, that doing it the right way would put me at a disadvantage, that the people willing to cut corners would always be ahead. But here's what I learned. The moment you start competing on someone else's terms, you've already lost. Because you can't out hustle someone who has no boundaries. You can't out manipulate someone with no ethics. And thank God for that. Your values, the things you refuse to compromise on, aren't slowing you down. They're filters. They're filtering out the clients who'll drain you, the opportunities that look good on paper but feel wrong in your gut, the partnerships that would require you to betray yourself. And here's something I learned the hard way. So, my first year where I hit six figures in my holistic business, I started operating from pressure instead of purpose. On paper, everything looked incredible. My clients were getting breakthrough results, the testimonials were pouring in, referrals were endless. I was working with a performance coach, hitting every metric. But somewhere in all of that success, I forgot the most important thing. Without me being in overflow, none of this was sustainable. I was craving freedom. That's why I wanted more income in the first place. But as I expanded my business, I took on new projects, grew my team and my overhead, and I just kept adding more pressure to perform. The external validation was masking what was really happening on the inside. I was inadvertently recreating the exact pattern I'd left corporate to escape. That's when I realized my values weren't just about what I was doing, they needed to guide how I was doing it. When I realigned my business around overflow instead of achievement, something drastically shifted. I started saying no to opportunities that looked good on paper but felt constrictive. I restructured my offerings to protect my energy first. And here's what happened. My revenue stayed consistent, my clients' result actually improved, but I got my life back. That's what I mean when I say your values are your filter. They don't just determine what you'll accept, they determine how you'll operate within what you've built. When you lead with your values as your operating system, not just your marketing message, you don't attract everyone, but you attract the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing. The clients who value your work deeply, who pay on time, who refer enthusiastically, and get transformational results because they're genuinely aligned with your approach, the opportunities that feel like expansion, not contraction, the success that doesn't just require you to become someone else, it allows you to be who you are. Your integrity isn't costing you success. It's the foundation of it. Now, here's the third shift. This is the one that changes everything. Prosperity and integrity are partners, not opposites. This is the lie at the root of all others. The belief that you can have money or meaning, success or soul, prosperity or purpose. But what if that's not true? And the data suggests that it's not. Organizations with clear values are 23 times more likely to acquire customers and 19 times more likely to be profitable. Values aligned companies don't just feel better, they perform better. But here's what I discovered. The more I align with my values, the more money I make. The more I trust my intuition, the better my decisions. The more I prioritize my well-being, the more energy I have to be of service. The more I choose alignment over achievement, the more I achieve. It's not despite my integrity. It's because of it. Prosperity and integrity aren't just compatible, they are interdependent. When you try to build success without integrity, you end up like I did, making money while accruing emotional debt. But when you build success on integrity, you create wealth that doesn't cost you your soul. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. 1, if something feels off, if you're exhausted, asking, is this it? Craving more, I want you to know that's not a flaw. It's information. Listen to it. Okay, number 2, your values aren't holding you back. They're the filter that protects you from the wrong path and attracts the right people, opportunities, and timing. And takeaway number 3, you don't have to choose between prosperity and purpose. That's the lie. And you get to stop believing it. The emotional debt that I was carrying when I woke up with that elephant on my chest, I thought that was just the cost of ambition, but it wasn't. It was the cost of living someone else's definition of success. And if you're carrying that same debt right now, if you're succeeding on the outside while something inside whispers, there has to be more, I want you to know there's another way. You don't have to keep choosing between prosperity and purpose, between soul and success, between the life that you want and the income that you need. You can have both. And in the next episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to build that. With the Soul-Led Business Blueprint, the 4 building blocks that create success without compromise. So until then, if you're ready to stop choosing and start building, I'm running a free workshop to celebrate our launch on November 4th. You can grab your spot in the show notes below. I'm Anik Manafal, and this is your Soul-Led Business Podcast. Thanks for being here. And remember, you already have everything you need within you. Our work is simply removing what's blocking you from accessing it. And until next time, trust your intuition, take aligned action, and keep leading with soul.